Hi, we're from Sinar Daily. This is Bobby Charles in.
Sure. So please scan and then
Welcome guys, welcome.
Hi, Ravi. Thanks for having us here.
You found this place easy?
Yes.
Cool.
So, Ravi, we just want to be very straight up with you. We should ask questions.
Sure.
Basically, with everything that's happened in the last couple of years, trying to move COVID, what do you think that PH has done wrong since to address issues by the government?
Wow. You walk into the house and then you ask tough questions. Let me see if I can provide some solutions that is easy to understand.
Please do.
The complex questions that you have. I think basically the Sheraton Move has been a bad moment for the country as a whole. Definitely a bad moment for Pakatan Harapan. Pakatan Harapan came in with a commitment for reform, a promise for reform, which was promised during the elections. But the reform could not see the 5 years, could not see the complete 5 years. And I think if we were given the 5 years, country would have seen some reforms too. Some important reforms in parliament, in government, in civil society, and this notion of all of government and all of society could actually have been practiced in order to build a better Malaysia, could have been a better Malaysia. But it's not too late. We still can rebuild the country. Right now it is going nowhere. The country is clearly going nowhere. But I think the people are standing up. People are fighting back. As you can see during the COVID, the white flag campaign during the COVID was good because the government was caught sleeping. So the people said we have to take ownership. In the same way, during the floods, people took ownership. This is fantastic. This is what we have to see in the new Malaysia. This is the hopeful Malaysia that we have to build.
That being said, Ravi, we have issues of the coalition being fractured. Do you think they have any good chance to actually lead the country again?
Well, I don't see a major fracturing in the opposition coalition. I see, yes, there's a need for change. There's a need for new ways of doing things. But I don't see a major fracturing like what's happening in UMNO. I mean, for example, UMNO is in a terrible state. And look what they're doing. One cluster within UMNO is ruining the country, ruining democracy, is now holding the government in ransom. And they are fighting against their own Prime Minister. Now that is fracturing. That is fracturing though. I don't see that in Pakatan Harapan.
Maybe can you explain a bit what you're doing?
Of course. We have a big campaign going on right now. Here we have what do you call, these are all kids, this is all will go out in a short while. If you had come this morning, there were lots of people who are actually putting all this together. And essentially this is to distribute to the people of Klang. And what you have here, and I hope I can put this fast enough, okay. What we have here are pelitup muka, you have the pelitup muka here, face mask. You have what do you call it, saliva test, and then you also have what you call sanitizer, a couple of sanitizers here that we have, and also what do you call it, drinking bottle, which will be given to about 10,000 people by the next week. And I just would like to point out that the number of people in Klang who have been identified as positive in the last 1 week has actually quite increased. Yesterday we almost hit 700 people already, and I'm a bit fearful of how many people are going to the hospitals. And I'm going to the hospital, Tunku Ampar and Rahima, early next week to check on how prepared they are in terms of accommodating people. So these are all your, as you can see, hand sanitizers, all of this. And then on the other side you have, here you have here you have the mask here, and then here you have the saliva kit. Okay. All the saliva kits are here. Now, and this is only one place. It's only one place, but we have another storage place where there are much more. So by next week, hopefully the next 10-12 days, we will have distributed about 10,000 packets like this in different parts of Klang.
I mean, it seems that you are doing a lot for the people of Klang. But that being said, why is your party, PDAP, being often ostracized or even seen as the boogeyman of politics? Why is that the case?
Semua salah DAP. I think that's UMNO's game. UMNO has vilified, UMNO has made DAP into a demon among the Malay community, and we want to say to the Malay community and to Malaysia as large, we are very much into development. We want a better Malaysia, we want a more democratic Malaysia, and we want a more fair and equitable Malaysia which works for everybody, So nobody is left behind in Malaysia that we are talking about though. But as always, as you know, in politics, the dominant party, especially in this case UMNO, would like to see a boogeyman. And the DAP is a perfect boogeyman. It's a perfect boogeyman, so we get whacked all the time. But that's okay, these things happen. But
Before that, one question. During the massive floods last year, you have put it to the Prime Minister that his visit here in Klang is done in bad faith.
yes.
Yeah, basically, is there a need for him to be here, to come to you at all, to do what he needs to do?
No, actually, he came here on on the 18th of, no, on the 19th of December. He was here at 11:30 in the morning. I had returned to him. In fact, I made a welcome. I said, please come to Klang and see the state of Klang and provide support for the people of Klang, and also commit money for the upgrading of drainage and irrigation in Klang. That was what he was supposed to do here though. But he came and he just saw a couple of his officials and went back. And people were upset with him because a lot of them saw him coming and he did not get down from his car, his motorcade, to greet people who are suffering from, who just became victims of flood. This is my office of staff working here. And in fact, Mugilan is now working on what we call the Kama House questions for Parliament. So this time around we will have 3 questions that we will post to the various ministries. One is on permohonan kewarganegaraan of a 12-year-old child, and then we also have a question on to the Ministry of Education on issues surrounding orang asli education, and then we also have another question for the Kementerian Alam Sekitar and Air on the floods in Klang. So this is for the Kama House.
Now, my question, with respect to the Johor state election, what do you want to say to your former colleagues who initiated the Sheraton Move, now campaigning that they are the best option to save or lead the country?
Well, all I want to tell them is the people are not stupid. People are very aware of who a traitor is, and people know, and people in every country have rejected traitors. But these traitors will bring lots of money. They'll promise lots of campaign goodies. And all I want to tell our people on the ground is Johor can make a major U-turn for Malaysia. At this time, if you go anywhere in the world, including Malaysia, the perception is the government and the country is going down the drain. The perception is it's not good for Malaysia. But Johor, the people of Johor can make a U-turn. If they vote for the opposition, if they vote for Pakatan Harapan this time around, including MUDA, what will happen is it will send a message not only to the other parties, but also to the government that time for change.
Wait, one more question. Basically, you've been very vocal on this particular issue. You are among PH lawmakers that have been vocal on death in custody and conflict of interest in police investigations. So, tragically, unfortunately, it's been a soft subject in the Indian community. But what is still Malaysian getting wrong about this subject?
Well, I think it's quite clear. When you have 7 people dying in the first 35 days of the year, first 35 days, 7 people have died in mysterious conditions, and there is no explanation why they are dead. There is a clear legal requirement that there must be some kind of a coroner investigation on their death, but nothing has happened so far. So people will have to find out what exactly why are there so many deaths? And it's actually contrary to what people think. It is the Malay population. It is the Malay population who are dying more in custody compared to Indians. More Malays are dying in custody than Indians. So this is something that we have to find out. Why is it happening? Why should anybody die? The police station is the most safest place for all of us. But unfortunately, it's just not happening. It seems to be a cursed place where people go to die. And the police don't have to do much changes. And the Suhakam and civil society groups and members of parliament have made recommendations what the police need to be doing. But the police have now instituted a committee within themselves. I think it's called JIPS, I think. It is which is a committee made up of policemen to investigate themselves. Will anybody accept that? It's a conflict of interest. I mean, no policeman is going to say, yes, my brother policeman was responsible for the death of this guy. No, he will not do that. So therefore, there must be some level of transparency, some level of openness in the investigation, so that the family can bring this to a closure. The family can bring this to a closure. And most of the times, these people are sick. Most of the times, these people are sick. So they could have a heart problem. Under stress, they die. So that we have made a recommendation many years ago, including as late as last year, that they should employ a doctor. The local hospital has to send them to the hospital, to the doctor. So a doctor from the local hospital has to be there in order to help them.
Okay, Ravi. Now, basically, my final question before we end. Basically, I know it's a stark contrast of your questions just now, but can you give us a few suggestions on the best places to eat?
Oh, many places though. It all depends on what you feel like on that day. We have the best seafood in town, in the country, I must say. We have the best bakute. Bakute is world renowned. And Malaysia's bakute is also found in New York. And I was told also found in Europe. It's called Klang bakute, of course. And there are lots of eating places in Klang. Whether it's Indian, whether it's Malay, or whether it's Chinese. There are lots of places to eat. And I welcome people to come. Because the best food is in Klang and nowhere else.
I see. Bold claims or everything. Thank you so much for having us today, Sol. Thank you so much. Why don't you show us where we'll go next? Perhaps we'll have a short drink or something downstairs.
Sure, we can do that. There's no harm. We can do that. But thanks for the opportunity to share my thoughts. Maybe we can have another sit down, a long conversation on a whole variety of issues though.